So last time we left off on sort of talking about the vitriol and the sort of militant behavior that Charles Manson really stirred up in his clan. And so we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what we can see in this Blind Reacts and continue to try to understand the motivation behind Charles and what he wanted to leave on this earth in the form of his leadership.
Sometimes I feel I'm scared to live. Living is what scares me. Dying is easy.
Behind bars, 12 years into his life sentence, and this was Charles Manson's first ever interview.
Where I had magical powers, and I told everybody in the chapel, I said, zap, 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 zap. I said, where's my magical powers?
He used it as an opportunity to rant, not to confess to some of America's most heinous...
I knew I wasn't going to go to the gas chamber because I hadn't done anything wrong.
In the summer of 1969, members of the Manson family went on a 48-hour spree in Los Angeles. On the first night, following his direct orders, 3 of Manson's most faithful followers broke into the residence of Hollywood actress Sharon Tate and mercilessly slaughtered her and 4 others.
The murders were gruesome, horrible. The most horrible we had heard of at that point.
The very next night, the Manson family struck again. This time, Charles Manson took a far more direct role, tying up the residents of this property, Lino and Rosemary LaBianca, but telling them they would not be hurt, just robbed. Then he set his disciples on them and left. Those disciples strangled and stabbed the couple, Rosemary, 41 times, before they carved the word war into Lino's stomach and used his blood to write Helter Skelter on the fridge door.
And I said, oh my God, it has happened again. And the LaBiancas had been, it was unbelievable, incomprehensible. And no one had even suspected that women were involved.
Mm-hmm.
Having broken the first story on the Tate murder, Associated Press journalist Linda Deutsch was again on reporting duty when the Manson family, the LaBiancas. The reaction was widespread terror.
You had a city that was in lockdown. People were buying alarm systems for their houses. People they were sure that they were targets. And then when the LaBiancas were, that sort of cemented the idea that there were mad on the loose.
After Sharon Tate and her friends, Manson had called on Tex Watson and Patricia Krenwinkel to murder again. But this time, completing the terror triumvirate was Leslie Van Houten. How Manson could get these women to so savagely kill him remains one of the great fascinations of this tragedy.
They were mostly disaffected, or they had been involved in drugs.
I'm trying to understand more about Tex Watson.
And they were ripe for the picking. He just plucked them off a tree, and he turned them into...
What do you think of women?
Oh, I like them. Yeah, they're nice. They're put together well and everything, and they're soft and spongy. Yeah, they're nice. As long as they keep their mouth shut and do what they're supposed to do.
Why do you say that?
Because that's what a woman's supposed to do.
Keep her mouth shut and do what she's supposed to do?
Sure. And that's about the extent of it. All this occult, all that hocus-pocus stuff that you guys are playing, I don't know nothing about all that.
You know nothing about something called Helter Skelter. Tell me, Charles, I don't know.
It's a fairy. It's worse than a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy tragedy.
The body of Sharon Tate is make-believe.
That's make-believe.
Make-believe, yeah.
That's make-believe to the people that went in there and did what they did.
Mm-hmm. And who were those people? But you know who they were.
Sure, I know who they were.
They were with you at the Spawn Ranch. They were part of this thing called, if not the Manson family or the Manson cult, the Manson Ranch. Call it what you will.
So then, what? I'm playing for my life. You working for money.
Hi, Rich. Your words this morning were just what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Leslie Van Houten is about to go before the parole board for a record 22nd time.
I want you to know that we're in this together. I'm feeling good and hope to be able to phone at some point.
So, as she writes from prison, now is a critical moment for her and lawyer Rich Pfeiffer. Is she going to be nervous tomorrow?
Of course. Her life is on the line tomorrow. She knows that.
The second longest serving female prisoner in California, Leslie has been behind bars for nearly 50 years for her role in the Manson. Twice before, the parole board has granted Leslie parole, only to have her bid for freedom denied by the governor at the 11th hour.
I think Leslie's going to get out.
Why should Leslie be given parole?
Well, she's not a current unreasonable risk to public safety, which is the legal standard, but way more than that is she was a young person indoctrinated into a cult long before the world knew about cults.
Well, I had been taught then that there was no such thing as death.
Leslie was 19 at the time, and she was one of 3 devotees sent out by Manson to keep was the second night of Manson's spree, and their target was Lino and Rosemary LaBianca.
When she went into the house, her intention was to kill LaBiancas, and she owns up to that, and that was her part of being accepted by Manson. She wanted to be accepted by Manson.
Do you believe that at that time she completely lost her will? That she lost the ability to know what was right and wrong?
I think she knew what was right and wrong to some degree. She absolutely believed that Charles Manson was Jesus Christ. That's what they were taught. That's what they were drilled in over and over again.
When does Jesus tell his followers that they should go and viciously murder people?
This is what they believed, and she acknowledges that today that that belief was skewed and everything. But at the time, that's what she believed.
But where I have to ask, where did that belief or the willingness to believe that come from? Right? There had to be something, in my opinion, there had to be something there that made you want to believe there is something that coincided with your philosophy and your outlook on the world, maybe some trauma that we don't know about, that you felt like you needed to get justice, and the way in order to get justice for that, I don't know, is to go out and take it out on others. And Manson fueled that by indoctrinating you and saying, well, what's why these people? Why not the people that hurt me? Why these people? Well, because they're all the same. These are these kind of people are the people that did what they did to you. I could see Manson teaching them that, man. That's crazy.
She wasn't alone.
The family's blind faith in Charles Manson persisted through their infamous court case, even with their own lives now in the balance. Their cheeriness and singing belied what they faced. But in January 1971, Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Krenwinkel were convicted of multiple counts of murder, as was Susan Atkins, who repeatedly and fatally stabbed Hollywood star Sharon Tate. All were sentenced to death, which was later commuted to life in jail. So this is where Charles Manson was arraigned. This is where the trials were held.
This is where it was. This is the place.
Reporting from the court case, Linda Deutsch was witness to history.
You stand still a second right there. Why? Yeah, that's very beautiful.
Beautiful, Charlie.
And a circus like none had seen before, with Charles Manson also on trial for the 7 horrendous murders.
When he came out of the holding cell into the hallway, he looked like a scared animal, and he was not looking very threatening. He just looked like a little guy in a buckskin outfit.
Not the Messiah.
No.
I was going to say he looks like somebody who's happy to have the spotlight on him. That's what I was going to say.
Even in custody, Manson was controlling his women, instructing them to disrupt every step of the court process. As for his own behaviour, Manson attempted to hypnotise witnesses, including former police officer Bob Burbridge.
And that was the craziest thing, because I was sitting there testifying against him, and they said, don't look at him. And I couldn't help but look at him, because he was giving me goo eyes. He's going like this, and I almost started laughing at him. He was just a little weaselly guy.
At the peak of his orchestrated bedlam, Manson tried to attack the judge, declaring he should have his head cut off. Manson was captured by the bailiff, the moment captured by the court artist.
He talked a good game. Made himself totally sympathetic, didn't admit that he did anything.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel any sympathy for him?
No.
Did you find him charismatic?
No.
Did you think he was crazy?
Oh, yeah. He was insane. He was malignantly insane. It was quite a time.
Hello.
Sharon Tate's younger sister, Deborah, was just a teenager when she confronted the madman who had ripped her life apart. When you first came face to face with members of the Manson family, what was that like? What did you see? What did you feel?
I was 16 years old, and Charlie was in the county jail, as were most of the members in the LA County Jail. I had myself smuggled in and looked into his eyes, and there was a lack of emotion. He didn't say a word. I didn't say a word, but I saw what I saw.
You've said in the past that you thought you looked into the eyes of evil.
I did, absolutely. I'm still looking into the eyes of evil.
I'm an outlaw, and I go so far, and then that's all you know.
Deborah also reveals that Manson wrote letters to her from jail.
And those
He operates on dominance, mind manipulation.
basically state that he's an outlaw and he is what he is.
But in those letters that he wrote to you...
Did he say he was sorry? No.
Did he say that he did it?
No, he said he's an outlaw and he lives by the outlaw rule, which is he's not going to volunteer information.
Right.
Deborah Tate has made it her lifetime mission to keep the Manson behind bars. And so far, she's done so. Charles Manson died in prison in 2017. Susan Atkins in 2009. Still in prison and still hoping for freedom is Tex Watson, as is Patricia Krenwinkel. As for Leslie Van Houten, her bid for parole was granted, and within weeks, she could be the first Manson family set free. It's a decision Deborah is fighting, seeking the governor to overturn the parole board's recommendation.
I'm talking about people's lives here. Is it worth taking a chance on? I happen to say no. And I say that because I sit in the room and I can feel their souls.
50 years may be too soon to forgive, certainly too soon to forget. And having so securely imprinted itself into the annals of time, the Manson family spree is a crime that will most likely continue to confound and horrify for the next 50 years.
I think that the Manson case will always be, if nothing else, a footnote to the 60s. People will say, and while in the 60s Martin Luther King was assassinated, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, hippies were roaming San Francisco, the Vietnam War was raging, and in Los Angeles, on one horrible weekend, a man named Manson ordered his followers to kill all these people.
So I was trying to look up some information on Leslie Van Houten and if she got out. It looks like she's still alive. I was looking at the fact that she had a spouse in 1982 and she was only married for at most a year. Not very tall, about 5'5", about the same height as Manson. So they're all kind of in the same boat. But I'm just interested because that happened in 69 and then she got married. Oh, okay, so she must have, maybe she got married in jail or something like that, only for a year though. But she was released from prison, I think, recently. So I mean, it is what it is. Very interesting, and you can see as the young lady was saying on the video that, you know, you're literally looking into the eyes of evil with somebody who is preying on somebody's life and not seeing it as you taking someone's life, and especially indoctrinating someone for them not to believe that it's actually taking someone's life. And you've been able to effectively communicate that this is not actual death. This is actual whatever it is, you know, whatever you explain it as. And so it's kind of weird. And so his focus was to really pull you away from the idea or the thought that this is bad. This is a bad thing, to, oh, this is not so bad. What you think about everything that's going on, you're actually helping, is how he probably framed it. And she, for whatever reason, there was her own motivations to believe that. So, but that's the video. I appreciate you sticking with me. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought. Until the next video, take care.